I wanted to hate Hades. Look, I'm sorry, I'm not too proud to admit that sometimes I can be just a little bit of a contrarian. And when I saw this game literally every single which way I turned my goddamned head, well, my bias began to set in. I mean, just take a look at this game. It's pretty damn simple, at least at a first glance. And when I saw fans seriously proclaiming with their chests puffed out and dick in hand that, and I quote, Hades is the best game that came out this year hands down, well, I get just a little bit more skeptical. I mean, there were a lot of good games that came out in 2020 and 2021, and it never seemed fair to me to compare a game like Cyberpunk 2077 with a game like Hades. One had millions of dollars in development capital, 10 years of hype, and tens of thousands of man-hours pumped into it, and the other was made by an indie publisher who have only ever made 4 games, including Hades. I've always kind of just figured that this judgment methodology was sound. And then I actually played Hades. I want to say Hades is the best game I've ever spent this little money on, but in all honesty, I can't even say that. See, I was so not a fan of this game that I didn't even buy it. Instead, a friend of mine bought it for me as a birthday gift, which I at the time reluctantly accepted. Oh no, I thought. Now I'm gonna have to at least try the game because otherwise it would be a huge slap in the face to a friend who spent $30 on it. After about 2 weeks of stalling and rage quitting Valorant, I finally booted it up. And after about 15 minutes of playing, the core premise of this ridiculously thoughtful narrative and its brain-breakingly addictive gameplay loop had been explained to me, and I was 100% hooked. Hades is not nearly as simple as it seems on the surface, in just about every single aspect, but my skeptical and biased outlook had completely prevented me from seeing that. The narrative? Come on, bro. It's only got text, voice acting, and the occasionally different character sprite. How good can it be? Whoa. I'm 150 hours in, and this simple, albeit compelling storyline still has me more hooked than a 1980s New York stock bro is to nose candy. The gameplay? Bruh. Come on, it looks like a brain-dead hack-and-slash Greek god vengeance story. Oh jeez, never seen that before, holy shit. I'm a dumbass. This gameplay loop is not only as addictive as Daddy's Secret White Nose Flower, it's also deceptively comprehensive with hundreds upon thousands of different potential abilities, techs, and weapons that all combine to produce endless potential playthroughs. The style? Get outta here. Okay, never mind. I can't even front. I always appreciated this game's vibrant and unique style. I mean, come on, this is literally skin deep, which is why even my shallow-ass bias couldn't dislike it. After playing Hades for months now, I can confidently sit here and tell you with a straight face that sometimes I'm a little bit retarded. See, Hades is probably one of the best games that has ever been made, and it really proves to me that age-old belief I've always hoped deep down was true. And that is quite simply, a game does not need to be a multi-billion-dollar project with genre-redefining features and groundbreaking new technology to be a once-in-a-lifetime instant classic. Hell, it doesn't even need those things to be good. All it needs is firm direction and driven creators. Hades is so good because instead of focusing on traditional AAA development goals, things like good graphics, multiplayer, and battle pacification, it takes what it does have, i.e. fantastic voice acting, a competent and replayable gameplay loop, and a thoughtful and clearly inspired plotline, and dedicates everything it has to making those aspects shine bright like a diamond off Lerny's bald-ass looking cue ball head. And damn, son, do they ever shine! Let me fanboy for just a minute, please. The characters of this game are rightfully the stars of the show, as hundreds of platinum-tier voice-acted lines grace the player's ears. And it's not just the amazing voice actors I'm talking about. If you're a fan of the concept of showing rather than telling, then Hades will delight you with excellently executed dialogue, because real-world myths are blended into the story in tasteful and non-overbearing ways such that they delighted a myth geek like myself. For example, Dionysus doesn't like Theseus because he abandoned his wife on an island. This is a direct reference to one of Theseus's main myths, and it is also a reference to Dionysus's love for Theseus's abandoned wife, whom he would soon take to be his own divine bride. Thoughtful dialogue like this is commonplace throughout nearly each and every run through the underworld, and I couldn't actually name all the times the writers nailed it with lines like this, because I'd be here for hours. Needless to say, when you pay homage to the source mythological roots while still adding your own distinctive style and unique twist to the dialogue, well, I'm gonna be impressed, and I think you should be too, because, I mean, it's just a pure delight. For example, this game also takes its own liberties with certain characters. Zeus defies his traditional all-bad guy or all-good guy portrayal, instead falling somewhere in between as an awe-inspiring, feared, but also relatively chill king of gods. Poseidon is the cool uncle, practically begging Zeus to smite him for all his constant insolent prodding, and yet he still retains his own distinct douchey California surfer bro kind of charm. And don't think this treatment is reserved for only the top-tier gods. Characters like Achilles, Orpheus, Thanatos, and more all have similarly refreshing personalities and quirks, breathing life into these oftentimes cliched mythological characters like helium in a fancy birthday balloon. In Hades, you'll find a veritable pantheon, get it, of notable characters and charming character arcs to accompany them. This is because every single character, whether they be a god, a chthonic entity, a scorned lover, or a reanimated skeleton, have all been made to come alive. And yes, I see the irony present in the fact that most of these characters are living in the afterworld and thus aren't actually alive, but the point still stands. The characters quickly become more than just an objective marker for the player to find and blitz through. Zagreus begins his quest aloof and clearly ready to part ways with his old life, and while his frequent rebellious excursions might not entirely cause a 180 in this regard, his quest still leads to him getting tied up with all manner of different characters in compelling, charming, familial, and sometimes even sensual ways. That's right, this game has romance options. I don't know about you, but that completely caught me by surprise. Although, admittedly only because I never thought a company would pour so much narrative effort into a game this simple on the surface. I fell in love with these characters, and part of me feels like I had no right to. I mean, this isn't Pan Am we're talking about. These weren't characters that, to my knowledge at least, dozens of people spent decades writing and adapting. These aren't characters who've had real-life actors play them in motion capture. This is just a fucking sprite, or maybe two, and a voice actor / writing team behind them with some fucking gumption. I could go on and on and on about each of these characters and their juicy personalities and voice lines, but where would the fun in that be? You get what I'm trying to say. This game has a better plot and character ensemble than it has any right to. If you don't believe me, just go ahead and listen to sweet Megara's ASMR-like tsundere dialogue and tell me you don't feel like getting spanked with that soul-devouring torture whip for all of eternity. Matter of fact, speaking of spanking, let's take a minute to spank the like button and sensually caress the subscribe button. My analytics have been screwed ever since I stopped uploading videos consistently, and I could really use the help. Oh, and if you're feeling particularly frisky, you could always bless me by taking a trip to the nightlibrary.net, where you can read all of the comics I've written for absolutely free. I will never take a sponsor for this channel because as long as you guys are willing to help me out and read my comics, well, that's more than enough for me. I really do appreciate it, and it really does mean a lot to me. Alrighty, the sentimental bit is over. Let's get back to the video by jumping right into the meat and potatoes of Hades, and that would be the gameplay. Have you ever played a game that you just couldn't stop playing? Like, whenever you were doing something, it was just always on in the background? For me, that game is Hades. Now, look, I'm no stranger to the roguelike genre. I love me some Gunfire Reborn after all. And while these games typically specialize in being easy to play over and over and over again, I can confidently say that there isn't a single-player game in the world that beats Hades' replayability factor. I think this for a couple of reasons, and it all has to do with the first gameplay aspect that makes Hades so good, i.e. its simplicity. otherwise known as the basics, those fundamental foundations on which a game must be built to create a fun and replayable environment. Hades has 4 command inputs for attacking: a basic attack, special attack, casting attack, and a call, which is basically an ulti. These 4 attacks are complemented by a simple and straightforward dash maneuver. This is it. That is the whole game. You will never unlock another attack. On top of that, there is no way to combine 2 button inputs into a fancy new combo. Now, this simplicity might seem like a disadvantage on the surface. After all, who doesn't like advanced techs and reasonably executable combos? But to my surprise, this simplicity actually lends itself wonderfully to Hades. This is because Hades isn't designed to be the kind of game that is complex from the user's standpoint. Rather, it is made complex through intuitive player choice. Which transitions me smoothly into the second gameplay aspect that makes Hades so good. And that would be its complexity. Don't look at me like that. Look, I know, reason number 1 was all about this game's simplicity, and these 2 little factoids might seem contradictory at first, but I promise you it's a claim that will make sense if you hear me out. Yes, I did say the game is simple, however, that simplicity is meant to serve as a solid foundation, one on which the game's more profound complexities can become easy to understand and enjoy. However, it would frankly be a crime to call this game simple because, well, it really isn't. The fundamentals are simple, the gameplay itself tends to be easy to understand, the story is compelling and engaging, and building fun and unique loadouts is about as intuitive as can be, but the choices and potential outcomes available to the player are outstandingly complex. This is for several reasons, but we should start with the most broad one, and that would be choice. Players have the choice to choose from various weapons and weapon aspects at the start of their trip through the underworld. Then, as they begin and sustain their trips through hell, they get to choose from an abundance of randomized power-ups. These different weapons and power-ups in turn put a novel twist on the 5 core combat and movement options available to the player. So let's dive into that and see if we can't understand these choices a bit more. Starting with your divine armaments. These things, they're special. They're the weapons that were used by Zeus, Poseidon, Hades himself, Hera, and more in their war against the Titans. In some cases, they're even weapons that were used by completely unaffiliated divine or demonic entities such as Lucifer or Gilgamesh. There are 6 weapons in total, and they serve as the first, most important choice a player has to make. This is because each one has a different special attack, a different basic attack, and a unique slew of innate special effects that change their fundamental strengths and most effective potential loadouts. Oh, and before I forget, each one of these weapons has access to an entirely different set of Daedalus Hammer weapon upgrades. These upgrades themselves serve to add even more dynamic differences to your weapons. They might make your sword shoot a beam, or your spear strike 3 times, or even make your railgun have unlimited ammo. It's safe to say these weapon dynamics alone play wonderfully off the simple fundamentals of the game's foundation. They add an intense amount of splendid variety to each playthrough. But we can't really begin to discuss the varied playthroughs this game allows in earnest without first delving into the incredibly diverse power-ups this game has to offer. And by power-ups, I of course mean the godly boons offered by Zagreus' colorful relatives. These guys, they're just so enamored by Zagreus' fierce attempts to come visit them that they can't help but bestow upon him their blessings. And let's just say the Olympians add as much color and fun to the game with their boons as they do with their charismatic personalities. This is in part because of how unique and different each god's blessings are, and on account of just how fucking many there are for the player to use. The straight up insane amount of boons that are offered by the Olympian pantheon is mind-boggling. For reference, there are 9 gods, 10 counting Chaos, with each offering 21 different boons to the player, except Chaos who offers 10. These boons give a player access to dozens of significantly different abilities and unique effects, and when combined with boons from other gods, different weapons, Daedalus Hammer weapon upgrades, and Mirror of the Night level ups, they can have some absolutely invigorating results. Take for example this duo boon loadout I made with Artemis and Poseidon that turned my regular cast into an automatic machine gun of death incarnate. My boons gave me the ability to shoot my bloodstone cast dozens of times rather than the standard 3, and my weapon and its specific aspect allow me to instantly reclaim all of my bloodstones whenever I land a special attack. On top of that, I have a specific boon that causes my enemies to take damage whenever they drop my bloodstones. It's also worth note that I picked specific Daedalus Hammer weapon upgrades that made my special attack both deal more damage, along with widening its damage radius, making it easier for me to hit people with my special attack. All of this means I shoot you 16 times, then hit you with a powered up special attack that causes you to instantly drop all of my ammo, rearming me in seconds. When you do drop my ammo, you instantly take 600 plus points of damage. All the while, I'm already shooting you and restarting the damage cycle all over again. Look, like I said, it is complex when you sit down and start building out super comprehensive loadouts like this. But it's also worth noting that I came to this loadout completely naturally because the game makes these kind of choices incredibly intuitive and rewarding. I never once sat down and planned any of this out. I kinda just stumbled upon the correct boons and built this loadout from the seat of my pants. Even more to this point, one look at the Hades subreddit and you'll find dozens of super unique and personalized loadouts that others have stumbled upon themselves, including ones that have just never occurred to me. I'm still playing this game daily, and I haven't even platinumed it yet. Hell, I haven't even used every boon yet. And that only fuels my desire to play it even more. I mean, today I'm using this cool duo loadout with Artemis and Poseidon. Maybe tomorrow I'll discover a duo that's even better. It certainly wouldn't be the first time. And that brings me to the third reason that this gameplay is so good, and that would just be its replayability factor. Hades seems to be a game that was designed to literally always be on in the background of anything. It's simple, doesn't take a lot of processing power, auto-saves itself regularly, and auto-pauses itself whenever the game is minimized. This convenience has led to me simply always having the game open in the background, leading to me playing this game during the loading screens for other games, playing this game in small bursts between homework assignments for a mind-refreshing break, or even playing this game while I'm playing other games that are forcing me to wait. Like Valorant. I suck at that game, but I can't stop playing it, so every time I die, rather than waiting for 3 minutes while watching my mongoloid teammates play like apes, I just switch over to Hades. This game is just, well, god damn it, it's perfect, or at least as perfect as a game like this could ever be. The only thing I want is more, and based on how fantastic the reception for this game has been so far, I can almost guarantee that this won't be the end for good old Zagreus and company. The future of this IP excites me to no end, and it should for you too. Why? Because Hades, well, Hades is just so damn good. Thank you for watching this video, and of course, if you like it, then put your money where your mouth is and press that like button down below. Of course, you could also subscribe while you're down there, but I'm not going to tell you how to do you. If you really want to help me, like I said before, you could visit thenightlibrary.net and read my comic books for absolutely no charge to you. That is honestly the best possible way you could help me out, and honestly, it would just mean a lot to me if you could do that. This video is a part of my comeback series to YouTube, 20 videos in 40 days. So if you like this video, you might as well check out some of my other ones, including the next video I'll be releasing, which goes into detail as to the potential DLC for Hades in the future. With that, this has been So Good, reminding you once again to go out there and be rebellious against unfair entities, but most importantly, keep on loving good stuff.